as always, what prompts me to read more? The library. Because it was due back in 3 days and I had to wait on hold for a while to get it, so I did not want to miss this window of opportunity. Hey everyone, it's Steph and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be wrapping up the books that I read during the reading rush. If you missed it, I have my reading rush TBR video. I also have my reading rush part 1 video. So now I'm going to be wrapping up a part 2. Reading rush was a week-long reading marathon kind of thing. And what happened was around day 5, I started to not feel good. It's not the coronavirus. I am okay. Thank you for your concern. Because I wasn't feeling myself, I wasn't feeling 100%, I ended up just kind of not filming for the rest of the reading rush. As you can see, I am feeling more myself now. All is good. But I just wanted to kind of fill you in, even though I wasn't feeling up to like recording myself, I did keep reading. So I want to fill you in with how I finished the rest of this readathon. For part 2, days 5 through 7 of the reading rush, here's what I ended up reading. I ended up not being able to get Princess Bride until the very end of the reading rush, and it was an ebook, and I was really hoping to just kind of power through it as an audiobook. I wasn't feeling the ebook. I was kind of just like spent looking at my screen for so long, reading a lot of digital books this week. So I ended up getting The Lady in Gold instead. So that counts for prompt number 3, a book that has a movie that you've seen, a movie that goes with the book. And the movie, The Woman in Gold, is with Ryan Reynolds, Helen Mirren. It talks about this Gustav Klimt painting that was created for this Jewish woman, taken by the Nazis, and then it was never given back to the family after the war. It ended up being part of one of the Austrian museums and never returned to those who commissioned it. So the movie is primarily about the fight to get this painting back into their possession. The book was quite different. I really liked the movie a lot. If you're interested in art, or if you're interested in the history of how World War II just impacted so many different families in so many different ways. The first 2.5 hours of the audiobook, it was just about Gustav Klimt, his life as a painter, and socially, politically, what was going on during this time period when he worked with Adele and when he painted her and their relationship. The movie, if you're familiar with it, focuses on a woman named Marie. Marie is, in real life, Marie was the niece of the woman in the portrait, Adele. So you only get the primary story of the movie for about the last hour and a half, maybe, of the audiobook. And this is, I want to say, 14 hour audiobook. It's a longer audiobook. Totally not what I was expecting. Spent a lot of time in the middle of the book talking about the Jewish communities in Austria and what was happening politically, the Nazi regime, Adolf Hitler's involvement with art, and then his failures at art and how that affected his interactions with artists, particularly people who painted Jewish people or people who created works of art who were Jewish themselves. Of course, it is completely heartbreaking to hear what really happened to these people, what really happened in these people's lives. It was very difficult to listen to. For being in a pandemic, for being at a time when there's already so much to be sad about in the world, I can't like live in that mindset all the time, but then to like escape, so to speak, into a book that has that mindset as well, it was challenging. I could only take it in small doses. So I ended up spreading it out over the second half of the reading rush. I did finish it. I'm glad I finished it. It was not as satisfying of a read as The Radium Girls, which was also historical nonfiction. This was a bit more drier, a little bit more textbook-like. I still think the story is important to know. Still think the history is good to know. And I love artwork and history of artwork. But it wasn't as exciting of the listening as The Radium Girls. It didn't keep me as riveted. It didn't keep me wanting to know what happened next as much. Perhaps because I'd already seen the movie, but I'm still glad that I read it. Glad that I got to get a little bit more of the full story around this painting. So that was The Lady in Gold. That checks off prompt number 3. I did continue to work through Miniatures of Morals. The book is broken up into segments about each of Jane Austen's books. So we have Pride and Prejudice, Northanger, Sense and Sensibility, and then Mansfield Park, Emma, and Persuasion in that order. This is the only book I did not finish for the reading rush out of my prompts of the 6 original books, so I'm not upset about it. I'm still working through it. I am through 4 out of 6 Jane Austen novels. It's describing and analyzing the characters, the thematic elements, the different transformations, morally, ethically, that some of the characters go through, or the ones who neglect to allow themselves to grow morally, ethically, and how that affects the trajectory of their stories in the books. I'm glad I'm taking my time It is something that just makes me think, and it's really kind of, because I'm already familiar with all of these stories by Jane Austen, it's a really nice way to kind of refamiliarize myself with the stories or notice little things that don't really take the bulk of my focus or concentration as I'm absorbing the stories. So I'm really enjoying that, and I look forward to finishing that up soon. Last but not least, I did read an extra book. I had a few options I was considering for the second prompt that begins with the Lost Lieutenant, Lady in Gold, and The Handmaid's Tale. So I ended up getting to The Handmaid's Tale. It was not something I'd planned on reading once I'd finished The Lost Lieutenant, but as always, what prompts me to read more? The library. Because it was due back in 3 days and I had to wait on hold for a while to get it, so I did not want to miss this window of opportunity to read this book. I did not have any kind of prior schema of The Handmaid's Tale. I hadn't watched the TV show. I knew it had been hyped up and talked about, and I kind of wanted to know what the buzz was all about before even considering watching the show. Going into the story, I knew that it was a feminist book. I knew that it was a book that discussed things in a dystopian society. I'm glad I read it to kind of see what all the buzz was about. I've since watched a few YouTube videos kind of comparing the book and the TV show, and it seems like it's transferred really well to the TV show. It was an interesting world to be a part of. I think it's easier sometimes to like put on a TV show for an hour, watch it, and then turn it off and go away. I don't know, sometimes when I read books, they just kind of stay with me and it just doesn't sit right. And this was one of those books where I understood what the author was trying to get across. I understood the importance of speaking up for injustice and making sure that that doesn't end up becoming a reality one day. And there are enough injustices in the world that haven't been addressed yet or haven't been changed yet. That's important to talk about. It's important to reform injustice, for sure. I just didn't love the way the story was portrayed. I didn't love the society that was built. It hops around time-wise very often. We get different pieces at different points. Maybe it's supposed to just increase the anticipation for the reader, make the reader want to keep reading. I felt like everything was kind of fuzzy. It wasn't always clear. I couldn't totally get into it. I was into it enough to want to read to the end, to see how it ended. And the ending was a little bit inconclusive for my liking, and then we have this kind of epilogue, so to speak, that takes place years after The Handmaid's Tale is set. Are the themes important? Is it important that we don't ever end up in a society where people are not treated fairly or the way they're supposed to, with the dignity and respect that we are all created to have as a human being? Wasn't my cup of tea. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad that I tried something new, and I'm glad I could check it off and make this a part of the reading rush. So overall, here's what I read. I read the bulk of 7 books. The last book was 2/3 of the way complete instead of totally complete. So I have the Radiant Girls, Lost Lieutenant, Lady in Gold, The Handmaid's Tale, Miniatures of Morals, Misery, and Wuthering Heights. So I got to try some new things. I'm glad about that, and this pushed my reading to kind of go out of the normal of what I read, and I got to try some new things. Overall, this reading rush was a success. I appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for more book info as I make more videos. So if you like this video, definitely hit the like button down below, subscribe, and I look forward to making more bookish content for you guys soon. I hope you're finding a book that brings some sunshine to your day, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.